from their parents. It's a bad situation, y'all.
What's happening? Virginia.
It's not a good situation.
What is it?
Welcome.
Richard, Louisville, Kentucky.
Hello, Kentucky. Welcome.
Kentucky.
Hello, Scott, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Situation.
Hello, Green
Hey,
Bay.
Scott.
Welcome.
You're gonna have to show
Right.
me.
It's not a good situation.
Jeffersonville, Missouri.
Well, then what is it? Not a good situation.
Tell us what it is.
Muted.
Hello, everybody. My name's Charlie Moore. I'm here with Juanita Heckel, and this is the Frank R. Wallace Level 3 call. Well, a lot of people jumping on here. How are you, Juanita?
Well, I've doing pretty good, Charlie. I've had a busy day, but I'm happy to be with you in the sea of you right now. And how are you?
I'll survive. I will survive. Should I start a dance now?
If you want.
This is just going to take a little longer than I was planning on. That's all. But anyway, I hope people don't take this the wrong way. I'm not cold-hearted about people having problems, but this is not the time or place to talk about that. Okay, this is the time to get ready for a call. People are excited. They want to hear something that's going to help them move forward. Everybody likes to say hi, and that's what that whole time's about. Share the energy and get pumped up, because now we are in the civilization of the universe. So I'm not trying to be cold-hearted here, but that 10, 15 minutes before the call, when everybody's saying hi, is not a place to talk about your worries or your woes. You can call us up during the day. There's numbers that we throw out there all the time, but it's not before a call. At least not on the calls that I'm involved with. That's just it just doesn't set the tone right. Because let's face it, we all have problems. Every one of us on this call could call up every day on these calls and say, you know what, this happened to me today. Boy, it was another rotten thing here, another rotten thing there. But that's not me, I think. There's a time and place for everything, and it's not before a call. This is the time to get pumped up and get charged up. Feel like you're in the sea of you. Listen to some people. Get to know everybody, because we do get to know a lot of people here, and some of them we never meet, or we only see once every other year or something. So this is an important time for all of us, these calls. And I always appreciate the people who come to listen to the calls that I'm on, always. And I've been for 9, 10 years now. Because believe me, after the way I felt today, I could sit in this phone for the next 2 hours and complain. But that's not the time or place. This is the best thing all day that happened to me, was being on this call tonight. So that's what this is about. But let me see. Just want to talk about the Reach Out program. I did get out this week. Sorry for the delay. It was over a week late. But it did get out yesterday. There's some people on the Reach Out list. Either I put down the wrong email list, or Brenda put down the wrong email list. So I don't know if your address is correct. If you are on the Reach Out list, if you haven't received it yesterday when it went out, give me a call tomorrow, and we can compare what I have as opposed to you have for your email address, so I can change it so you can get it. We've got about 15 people here who, every weekend they're coming back. I don't have the time to call you to see if I have the right email. So if you want to change it, if you want to get back on it, then just give me a call. Otherwise, I got to take your name off. So call me if you haven't been receiving it. But the Reach Out list for the new people and anybody else here who's not on it, I think is kind of foolish that you're not, because you get so much more information from the Reach Out list. It's a way for you to meet other members here. It's a way for you to make connections. It's a way for you to learn this information better, because who else to talk about the information than other neothink people? I've made a lot of contacts to it, and a lot of people here have. Some people aren't taking advantage of it. That's your call. No one's going to force you to do anything. But I just want you to understand the premise of it. You don't call people and then complain about everything. You call people and say, I'm fairly new in this. How long have you been there? Been here, and start to figure out if that's a person that you'd like to make a connection with. Now, sometimes you're going to call someone, and it's not going to be, there's no match there. That's the way life is. will make matches, and you will start to talk with them at least once a week or so. And that's what you want to do. You want to build up a list of people that if you need it, you can call them up. And a lot of friendships have started through the Reach Out program. So that comes out every other week on a Tuesday. If you want to get on that, just give me a call tomorrow.
So this is a Thursday night, the lead call, and I just want to say welcome to Thursday night. It's October 17th of 2019, and this is the lead call. It is gray and gloomy outside here in Portland, Oregon, and my name is Big V. I record these programs every week, almost, or I record the replay. So here we go with more of the Friday night or Thursday night Frank R. Wallace call. Here it is. Listen in.
If you want to write in it every week or every other week or once a month or once every other month, it doesn't matter. Just contact Brenda, and she can set it up with you. To contact her,
I don't go and give phone numbers and access codes and people's phone numbers. I try to avoid all that stuff. Some of the older calls, if you go to like Steve Fagan and all, some of those phone numbers don't exist anymore. Just to let you know, if you're listening to Steve Fagan down at the bottom of the list, some of those phone numbers do not exist anymore. So please be careful in making phone calls though. So here we are. It's Thursday night and it's getting dark outside here in Portland, Oregon. But here's Charlie Moore and Juanita Heckle.
Sometimes we just get backed up with other curricular activities that you don't like to do, like go to the hospital. Anything else, Juanita? No. The recording number for tonight.
Yes, the recording number is
I don't give phone numbers or access codes, so just bear with me for a minute. Coming up here in a couple weeks on my social media program, I am having a 2-day summit on social media. It's October 30th through the 31st. It all starts October 30th at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So if you're looking for Facebook, that's where you'll find me under the name Tony Smith. There's a little puppy dog there. And then you find me, request friendship with me, and you can be, I'll invite you to the summit. And you can be part of all the summit sessions that I'll have on Wednesday, October 30th and 31st. Just want to put it out there. It's all free. I don't charge for my events, so it's all free admission. You can stay at home. You don't have to travel anywhere. Isn't that nice? Here's Charlie Moore and Juanita Heckle.
I don't exactly remember what Steve talked about, but we're there.
I remember it too. I only missed one call, and he sent me a recording at the time because there wasn't an option to do this, but now we have an option to listen to the recordings. And there are, I believe, 288 or 289 of them. So,
if that doesn't work, then try. And then if that doesn't work, try 288 and a half. All right. Well, this is the Frank R. Wallace call. So we're going to change gears a little bit. And tonight we're just going to touch briefly on the Golden Helmet. Obviously it's in the Prime Discovery. It's also in Neotech 2 key book. And I'm looking at the old Frank R. Wallace collection book, which it's in. And that Frank R. Wallace collection is in the Neotech 2 key book. There's a lot to the Golden Helmet. It will take us a few weeks to get through all this, but I haven't talked about it in a while. Frank R. Wallace was, to put it very, very nice, he did not like the IRS. I can't really use the words that I could describe how much he didn't like them, but so he had a battle with them all the time. He ended up in jail and served time in prison, and that's what this is all about. But I like how he starts the introduction here. I'm in the appendix, the Golden Helmet, the introduction. And I'm just going to read this first paragraph, and I want to talk about the first paragraph for a minute. Can the following battles be won on planet Earth? Good versus evil, justice versus injustice, prosperity versus poverty, and more. Rationality versus irrationality, peace versus war, life versus death. Yes, all those battles can be won. Victory is certain, perhaps by 2001 AD or even earlier. Obviously, he wrote this is back, I think, in the 70s or 80s when he wrote this, and he was very optimistic. But the question I like to ask on that one is, he has all these things there, good versus evil, justice versus injustice, all those different things, life versus death. Do you believe that we can achieve those? That was my question. Because when I read it today, I'm saying, I haven't thought about this in a while. Do I really believe that all of these things we can win? And as I went through each one, and I always like that one that says rationality versus irrationality. Well, basically, it's not rational for you to like three of these, and then the other ones can't happen. To me, that's irrational thought. So since I believe I am a very rational man, I do believe that all these things can work. And I'm sure that victory is certain, as you put it here. But you have to ask yourself these things. How rational do I think? Do I really think that all of these bad things in this world can go away? Or am I, it's something that we have to believe it. Neothink and neotech is not something that we can just take for granted or just say, I believe some of this, but the other stuff, I'm not so sure of. You're never going to understand neothinking, and it's never going to help you out until you dive in all the way. And I was talking to a group of people today on the phone, and I was talking about how everything in neotech and neothink is based on honesty. It's based on rationality. It's based on science. It's based on all the things. And I was trying to give an example of it, and I can't think of a better one than going to, like, Frank R. Wallace and Mark Hamilton. They both were big believers of Julian Jaynes and how he wrote, the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind. And it's Frank R. Wallace thinks it should be like the number one book of all time, and maybe someday it will be. But he goes in there and he talks about how societies everyone was bicameral. This is before man became conscious, and how they still raised cities and built pyramids and built all those things. But it was all done by anybody. Basically, they were just followers. They reacted to everything because they wouldn't have bicameral mind. Well, Frank R. Wallace and Mark Hamilton took that as the basis for what they thought. And so if you ever really want to check anything that we are based on, that's an excellent one there. So what we put out, so what I'm trying to say is, if you're really trying to understand this and saying, neothink does no good to you, neotech does no good for you if you don't dive in. If you don't give it everything you have, if you don't believe it, then go away. That's the best words I can ever give you. If you believe in it, though, then dig in. And that's what we try and do on this call, and have an announcement on Sunday about a new call that I'm coming up with that's going to be even more digging in, and I'll have that on Sunday night. But that's what I was talking about today, and the only way that I learned all this was that I believed it. And I checked out the sources, and I did a lot of homework, and I read Julian Jaynes twice, 2.5 times so far, and I'm still trying to figure that out all the way because it's a hard book to read. But that's what this is all. So basically, when he goes against that prosperity versus poverty and life versus death, you have to believe in all of them, because if you believe in justice versus injustice, that's great. But then prosperity versus poverty, I'm not sure if we'll ever take care of poverty all the way. Then you don't get the idea yet. You don't get the idea that everything is possible here because we are rational people. We have a conscious mind, which is the most powerful thing in the universe. So how can we lose against anything? And we're living in this very irrational world. Understand there's no reason out there. There's no logic out there. There's no common sense. There's no anything anymore that's good. Everything is evil in the AC world. If you believe that there's still a Jesus Christ, an almighty Jesus Christ, then you're not ever going to understand this. Because that's just another outside authority, the church. So you have to, there's all these things that and it's not easy to do this. But that first paragraph to me, that's what it said to me today. And almost every paragraph in these pages, you can really take and dissect. Because I'm tired of hearing people say it. I'm not blaming them or anything. Charlie, I read 5 books, but man, I don't really understand what's going on. Well, these aren't just books. This is a whole new education that we're going with here. We're back in school. These are school books. We got to mark these babies up. We got to underline them and make notes and go back and read them again and again and again. This is the only way that we're going to do this. And the Golden Helmet is a great example of digging in and really understanding what he means by the Golden Helmet. And we're going to take our time going through this because there's so much here, and we're just going to just touch it tonight. This is basically just the introduction. Juanita, do you have anything to say on that first paragraph?
Well, you pretty much covered a lot of it, Charlie. Yes, when it says, peace versus war and life versus death, it's how are we with that? How are you mentally with that? Are you believing, like Charlie mentioned, that you have the neophyte mentality and that you have that rational thought process? You have all of that fully integrated honesty to yourself on these concepts. Because if you're in the religion mode and you're riding the fence and you're going back and forth, you're not going to get the gist of all of this. You have to be able to put the religion and politics on the back burner. Just put them back there and open your mind space to really absorb what's being put here, because this is very, very powerful literature. It's prime literature. And when I talked to Charlie today about it, I looked at it. It's universal knowledge that was taken from us many years ago, many moons ago, I should say. And we were all taught that we're not worthy enough to achieve or live in a prosperous, happy life. And that's what I wanted to add right now, Charlie.
Thank you, Juanita. It takes a while to really get the hang of this, and that's why sometimes I'll just stop and I'll just talk about something that's not really on the agenda tonight. But it just makes, when I read that short little paragraph, it just hit me hard tonight. And maybe some other night I would have read that and it wouldn't hit me as hard. But when you go through this information and you read it, and you just finish it, even a sentence sometimes can take your mind off of what you're reading, and you just think about what he said in just a sentence. And that's the integrations that you start having. And that's when you want to dig in now and find out, why did he say it? Why did he put it here? Where did that come from? What was in his mind when he wrote that? And I'll ask that question a lot on both of them. What was Mark thinking, or what was Frank R. Wallace thinking when they wrote that? Where did that thought come from? And then eventually you can figure it out. So he thinks, though, that we can overcome it. Well, he thought that we could overcome it within the next decade. And he said we have to look at this, at the integrated honesty of Neotech and the wide scope accounting of the Golden Helmet must be kept hidden or suppressed. In other words, back then they weren't announcing this that much. They were just trying to do it like under the radar, because they know if the government saw this back then that they would have just repressed them so much. So for years, even decades, they were doing it like in a secret society. But when I joined this, we were still a secret society. Elaine Bennett's on the call. She joined it I didn't, so she knows what I'm talking about. We weren't supposed to tell anybody about this. We were a secret society. And then a couple years later, we aren't anymore, and now we're out there and all that. But they, they shunned all the publicity and the media since 1981, and Neotech had spread Neotech worldwide. And then back then when this was written, it was published in 12 languages, and it's in 156 countries. I know that there's a lot of members overseas, all over the world. How many? I have no idea. I don't know if they're still selling overseas. I guess they are. I don't know. But I know that we have members in England. I know we have members in Africa. I know we have members in Italy. We have members in Germany. I've talked to them. Australia was big time for a long time. And me and Steve used to talk with those guys all the time down in Australia. They even had a summit down there one year. I'm not sure what's going on down there now, but so it is worldwide, and it has been. But now it's time to not, now is the time for us to get it out there. He also talks about in the introduction here that Neotech has been the deep root cause of three different things: collapsing totalitarian governments, such as in Eastern Europe, eradicating the authority of Western religions, such as Roman Catholics, and three, removing from office economically and socially destructive politicians. So that's like the three main things of what Neotech wants to do. And they also would like to get rid of some of the most harmful bureaucracies, such as the ATF, the DEA, the EPA, the FDA, the INS, and the IRS. The day that those come down, we will be celebrating in the streets. He has an interesting footnote here, though, and I think I'm just going to take time for a minute to talk about it. He said that that dynamic will increasing vanish or redeem harmful politicians. And then he has a footnote there. He says, and it starts out, redeem with a question mark. And then he starts talking about Bill Clinton. And I forgot about this, so I read it this morning, and he was talking about, since Clinton was president in the early 90s, he had a chance, Franco Wallace thought, to understand and then implement the Neotech Golden Helmet dynamic. He said, Clinton could have become the greatest, most valuable world leader in history. Before Neotech and the Golden Helmet, no consistently rational principles were available in which anyone could invest. Bill Clinton may be out of a special integrity. Yeah, I just went blank in my mind here. Never looked into or invested in bogus principles from the irrational philosophers that swirled about him and everyone else. Such a fact left him uniquely free for redemption. And it was incredible with Clinton. You knew he was a crook. You knew he was a liar, but people still loved him. It was amazing to watch this guy in action. He was genius at what he did. Everybody knew he was a runaround. I mean, you could be a 3-year-old understanding, Bill didn't stay away from the ladies, and he did this, he did that, he made many, many mistakes, and yet people still loved him. If he would have did this and took in Neotech at the time, or any president basically, I mean, look at Trump would do this today, or the next president, or whatever. Any president who would do this and would make the United States the most powerful country by far ever on the face of this planet, and that would eventually just domino effect all over the world. It's an interesting thought, and I thought that was interesting that because he brought up Bill Clinton, which which basically he stood for everything that we don't stand for. But if you take a president and then he says, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to pass like the prime law, and we're going to pass this, and we're going to do this, so that everybody can win and have a great life. But that's not the way it's done, and so far it hasn't been since then. But as we get in this further and further, you'll start seeing why he did think that. And then also, what I liked about Frank R. Wallace is every time he started something new, he always come up with new words and concepts. And I'm going to go through these words tonight. Some of them you have heard a million times, and some of them maybe you haven't been that familiar with them. But each time that he says these words, and he has a definition for them, it's funny because sometimes he'll use the same word sometimes. So like the first one here is golden helmets. I think he mentions it in one other aspect too somewhere. But some of these he'll talk about in almost every one. And he always will have a different definition for it. It does amaze me. And so your vocabulary, I think, is important here because we should be using a lot of the words that they use here. And there's about 15 of them here, so I'm not going to go deeply into these, but we are going to cover them, though, because we have to really understand what they are. The golden helmet, I imagine a lot of you don't really know what the golden helmet is. Golden helmets are all revealing wide scope accounting tools that evolve naturally from the fully integrated honesty of Neotech. Golden helmets are what will vanish not only income taxes, but all other taxes on production, earnings, savings, prosperity, inheritance, and estates. Golden helmets are the tools used by business people to generate limitless wealth for others and society. Now, let's look at that, okay? That's what the golden helmet is, that we basically pay no taxes. Well, in the C of U, yes, there will be no governments. So, if you think about taxes, and if you have a business, okay, how many hours, how much money do you spend a year, non-productive time, just paying taxes or figuring out how much you got to pay? I used to be an accountant, and I was a controller in one company. And every company has to have accounting departments, right? And how much comes out of their profit just to pay these people? And they give nothing back to the company. They don't produce anything for the company, but yet we have to have them. It's a necessary evil. So taxes take away from the prosperity of a country, from the prosperity of an individual, of the person who would like to start a business but can't afford it because of the taxes. Imagine what companies could do today and what people can do today if they have to pay taxes. Because everything that the government does is now privatized. Okay? We don't need an IRS. We don't need a defense. We in the beginning, we were starting to have the Navy, the Army, and police and all that. But otherwise, all those departments in the government, they're all gone. They're all privatized now. And if those people don't do a good job, they're fired and somebody else will take their place. Everything becomes a business. Everything starts to work well because of the golden helmet. It's that wide scope accounting. To look at everything there and say, all right, what tools do we need to make this better? Because you have to understand, Neothink and Neotech is nothing but tools. That's all they are. It's tools that we can use to make things better. The next one he has is Neotech, and I love Frank Wallace. He always comes up with so many different definitions for Neotech. He says it is a noun or an adjective or an adjective, meaning fully integrated honesty based on facts of reality. Neotech creates a collection of new techniques and new technology that lets one know exactly what is happening and what to do for gaining honest advantages in all situations. I love that. Gaining honest advantages in all situations. How many times have you heard it from me? You always have the edge if you have Neothink or Neotech, because you're having all of the honest advantages in any situation you're in. Neotech provides the integrations to collapse the illusions, the hoaxes, and the irrationalities of any harmful individual or institution. Put me in front of anybody, and it's not because I think I'm the world's smartest man, which I'm not even close. But you put me in a room with anybody on this planet, and I'll win. Because of the honesty and the knowledge that I have. They don't have that. The biggest threat to any government in any country, to any religion in any country, is honesty. They can't compete with honesty. You can't justify lies, and that's what they're all based on, is lies. So I love when he goes into that because it's so true. We have the honesty. What we say is backed up by logic or science or whatever. It's rock solid. Neotech and Neotech are just based. It's like a fortress. You can bomb it all day long and it's not going to fall apart. So when you think of Neotech, he always has it there though. Fully integrated honesty based on facts of reality. It's constant reality, rational. Everything we see in this AC world today, it's an illusion. And if you can't see through it, then you got to start looking at it a little harder, because it's all an illusion. Anything, Juanita, there that you went out on about this definition of Neotech?
Yes, the fully integrated honesty, your facts of reality. There's a little part in the index that Dr. Frank R. Wallace boxed in, and I would like to read that real quick, Charlie. It says,
Sure.
Look into yourself with honesty, and you shall find God. Look into each individual with honesty, and you shall find the civilization of the universe. Look into the future with honesty, and you shall find the end of dishonest government. And that's why when Mark Hamilton and Dr. Wallace always says, when we're loyal to our honesty and we look at things with that wide scope accountability and we get the facts, like Charlie said, his knowledge and his honesty will surpass them every time, because you cannot sidestep honesty. It's solid, and that's what I had to share right now.
Great. No, it's a great point. It really is. You can't justify lies. It's impossible. So when you ask a politician a question, he'll give you a 25-minute answer. By the time he's done, you have no idea what he said, and he didn't even answer the question, because they can't, without lying again and again. I mean, I really think it's true. How do you know that a politician's lying? It's when his mouth is moving, because I don't think they have any concept of what honesty is. They just oversee it, that's all. Next one he has is objectivism, and that's the philosophy of Neotech, the philosophy for the well-being of conscious beings, the philosophy based on reason, the New World philosophy of limitless prosperity. Wow, limitless prosperity. Do you believe in that? Every individual in this world should have limitless prosperity. That's the C of U. Totally opposite of what we have today in this AC world. Nothing is unlimited to us. We can learn anything as long as it follows the laws of nature, the laws of the universe. We can achieve anything that we want. So imagine the kind of world that we could live in if everybody was living their Friday night essence and doing what they were supposed to be doing. Next one, subjective laws. Now this can be tricky sometimes. Subjective laws include political agenda laws conjured up by politicians and bureaucrats to gain self-serving benefits, false egos, and unearned power. Enforcement of political agenda laws requires the use of force and armed agents against innocent people. The only purpose of such laws is to violate individual rights. Objective laws, though, are not conjured up by politicians or bureaucrats. Instead, like the laws of physics, they arise from the immutable laws of nature. Here's the laws of nature right there. Such laws are valid across time and space, benefit everyone in advanced societies. Objective Subjective laws are based on the moral provision of initiatory force, threats of force, and fraud as contingent on page 89 of this Golden Helmet, which he has, I think, the prime law there. The only rational purpose of laws is to protect individual rights. And I love that last sentence, because when was the last time the government ever passed a law that was based on the individual? I'm not sure if they even have a law anywhere since this country's been here that's based on individuals. It's either based on religion, it's based on creed, it's based on race, it's based on sex, it's based on this, it's based on that, but it's not for every individual. How can a world survive if the individual doesn't have any rights? Why do you think that they keep racism in the picture all the time? Why do you think there's so much thing about the Democrats are always right and the Republicans are always wrong, and they get further and further apart from each other? There's no rationality left out there. It's getting more scary by the day. The next one he has is ego justice. Is the use of subjective political agenda laws to gain harmful livelihoods and feel false importance. Ego justice is a survival tool of many politicians, lawyers, and judges. Ego justice is the most, I'm not even sure what that word is. I should look
I
at
think
it.
it's pernicious.
Pernicious form of, yeah. It's basically, ego justice is one of the most really good forms of neo-cheating. Okay? Political elites, parasitical elites, thrive on subjective laws and ego justice to the harm of every individual and all of society. You can take any politician, I don't care if he's just the mayor of a small town, to the president of the United States, and no one can get to, if someone does want to become a politician, and he starts out being like the town mayor, it's a town of 20,000 people, and he becomes mayor. Do you think he got there being totally honest? He had to have backers, right? He had to have people with money, and of course they had their agendas, and so he gets paid off here and there for passing bills. All right, that ego justice, okay? Nobody walks into D.C. as a purely rational, innocent person as a politician. It's impossible. You can't do it. And that's what this is really talking about. They make up laws to make themselves look good. They don't care about these laws. Politicians will start changing if they had to follow the laws that they put on the books. If they had to follow these laws like we do, then they wouldn't pass them anymore. So, when they said that politicians should have like shorter terms instead of being like forever, I believe that. But I don't think they'll ever give that up, because they don't want to go back out into the world and live under the laws that they passed. That scares the hell out of them. Parasitical elites are unnatural people. I love that term. Are unnatural people who drain everyone. The parasitical elite class lives by usurping, swindling, and destroying values produced by others. Their survival requires political agenda laws, armed bureaucracies, ego justice systems, and deceptive neo-cheating. These are the elite of the elites. These are the people who run the world. And they do anything that they can to keep that power. And they do it by initiatory force. All right? They destroy values. They don't want anybody to be valuable. They don't want anybody to have values. These are basically humanoids. Neo-cheating is the undetected usurpation of values from others, the swindling of money, power, or values through deceptive manipulations or rationalizations, non sequiturs, illusions, and mythicisms. All such net harms inflicted on society can now be objectively measured by the wide scope accounting of Neotech. We all know neo-cheaters. We all have been neo-cheaters. Let's understand that. None of us here are perfect. None of us knew about even neo-cheating while we were doing neo-cheating. But we all did something back then, back in those days. Hopefully we stopped doing that. And sometimes sometimes it's hard to break some of those old bad habits that we have. But we all have done it. But if, I remember going back when I used to work out there and in that corporate world, I mean, they were all over the place. I didn't call them the air cheaters, and I just called them. You don't want to know what I called them. But they're everywhere. There was a lot of names I called them. Now it gets into two good ones, truth and honesty. All right? Truth is a mushy, hydrate-headed word. Everyone disputes its meaning. Truth denotes a static assertion that changes from person to person, opinion to opinion, culture to culture. Thus, truth is a hollow, manipulative word that parasitical elites promulgate to gain credibility for their deceptions, destructions, and ego justice. It's amazing the difference. This is one of the biggest things I have learned here, the difference between truth and honesty. Okay? It's a difference of day and night. And when Frank R. Wallace was on trial, he asked the judge if he could be sworn in and take out the word truth and put in the word honesty, and the judge didn't allow it. Because that's how big the difference is. And the one example, I think it's Mark Hamilton does this somewhere, where he talks about, he said, like, Frank Murphy killed 2 people today. That's true. Frank Murphy did kill 2 people today. But the honest version is, he was in the Battle of the Bulge. His unit was under attack. He went out to the right or something, to the right flank, and he got shot like twice. But he kept going, and he killed like these 2 Germans who had these machine guns. All right, which made him a hero. But if you just said, Frank Murphy killed 2 people today, well, then why isn't he in jail? That's the difference between truth and honesty. And that's why this government or the law would never allow honesty. Lawyers use true all the time. They don't, because somebody's in a court and is charged with whatever, okay? There could be 50 different truths to make up all the honesty. They pull out a couple that they can use to make this guy look better. It's like an octopus with all these tentacles out there, right? Well, honesty is all of those tentacles are cut off at the same time. And here's the honesty sitting there. Because honesty is a solid, indivisible word. No one disputes its meaning. Honesty denotes a dynamic process that is identical for every conscious being. Honesty cannot be manipulated. Therefore, parasitical elites must squelch honesty in order to live off of the productive class. Thus, discard the word truth, uphold the word honesty. Discard ego justice, uphold objective laws. Disregard the parasitical elite, uphold the productive class. That's honesty, where there's no doubt that it's true. And how many of us are that honest every day? That's how we have to start to become. And I tell you, it's not easy. It's not easy to do that little white lie there, or fib about this, or But to be totally honest, people would think you were rude. People think you're crazy, but that's what you have to start to warm up to. Start to live that way. And your whole life changes. I'm not the most honest person in the world, but I'm getting there. We have to start doing it step by step by step. We've got maybe a little over 5 minutes. We got 4 more words. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I was just going to say something about honesty.
Go ahead.
It's when you get to the point, Charlie. You told me this once a few years back. When you get to the point that you don't care what anyone thinks because you're being loyal to your honesty, that's when you arrive. That's when you start becoming the person you're meant to be. Yeah, you have to get there, though, and it's hard work because we're so conditioned that we have to that we have to lie on paper. We have to exaggerate. I think I want to use the word exaggerate. We have to exaggerate the whole thing when we could just give the simple explanation of it. So that's what.
You're so right, but it's really funny. If you're lying, you know how much more work that is?
Yeah.
When you lie about something, because you have to remember who you told the lie to. All right? And if you're lying quite often, and say today at work you lied to 5 people, all about the same thing, but you gave them 5 different reasons or 5 different lies. Now, how do you remember who you told it to? Honesty, you don't remember. You're just always honest. It's a lot easier, really, being honest than it is to be not. It's amazing when you just break it down. When you're talking honestly, a lot of people won't like it because I can't handle the truth, you know. But you remember what you said. You're consistent all the time. After a while, people realize, man, you know what? He really is an honest guy because he's always consistent with what he says. I don't have to remember what I told people because I know what I told them because I told everybody else about that topic the same thing. And then if I have a different opinion about it down the road, then I'll change my opinion and tell them, you know, at that time this is what I believe, but I think this is even more honest now because I've learned more. It's hard to get that in you because we don't live in a non-honest world. We live in a horrible world. This is beyond anyone's imagination about the life that we're living now in this AC world. I mean, if you ever think about the sea of you, let's say that we get there, and it's 100 years from now, okay? And we've been in this civilization of the universe for 100 years. First of all, we would forget about this AC world probably in days once it's gone. Because why would we want to think about it anymore? And then as time goes on, and you do think about it, and then you'll be asking yourself, how did we survive? How did we not go crazy? By all the things that they put us through, all the hardships, not having enough money, the burden of life, people dying on us all the time. This is hard. I mean, this is like the world's scariest horror movie. And it is. Because everything that we do here is based on lies. This is horrible how they treat us. We're not individuals. That's why they don't pass individual laws. But, you know, all they want to do is just tax us, and in the meantime, kill us very slowly. And then after they kill us, let's add one more tax, the inheritance tax. Let's tax them after they die. It's obscene what they have done to us. But yet, that's what still goes on every day. So honesty it really is the way to go. I think Frank Wallace took that to the ultimate for him. I think he was probably the most honest person ever walked this earth. I really do believe that because he was that honest, and that honesty got him in jail. And you can't fight a system if they don't believe in honesty. So he believed in what he believed in. He just didn't back down to anybody. I don't know if I have that much courage or not. I really don't know. But he did, and he believed. But that's if you want Neotech and Neothink to work for you, like it did for Frank Wallace, then you've got to believe. You've got to dig in. You've got to be honest, and the honesty starts being honest with yourself. You've got to be honest with yourself. I've said this a million times. I try to be as honest as I can with myself. And if I really need to be honest, and I really don't want to be honest with myself, I'll walk till I find a mirror. And I'll look myself in the eye. And when I look myself in the eye, I cannot lie to me. And sometimes I wish I didn't know that. Because it's hard. Sometimes, like in the back of my mind saying, nope, I can't do it. I would be lying to myself. So a lot of things I don't say now because that stops me from lying. You know, like if somebody wants to start talking about somebody else and it's not somebody I really know that well, I don't want to talk about other people. Now, if there's a problem with that other person that's causing somebody in near think a problem, then I can jump in. But it's really just changing your philosophy and your mentality to start being honest with yourself, and that's where it starts. It's an amazing thing. And if I can give you a really fast example of being honest with yourself. I was in a dating service for years. This is well before computers. You hear all these different stories. And the guy came in one time, and I said, well, why are you here? He says, well, nobody really likes me. He says, especially at work. I said, oh, okay. Nobody? He says, nobody. I said, how many people work at your place? He says, there's about 150, 170 people. I said, and all 170 people don't like you? Well, I wouldn't say all of them. Well, how many? And I'm just going to cut this real short here. I finally got it down to only one person didn't like them. Not all 170. And the reason was, and the person who didn't like him was the president of the company. And the president of the company had a party or something, and everybody was invited, and everybody was drinking a little bit, and he told the president that his wife was fat. Whew. Big faux pas there, and that's, so that he started to think that everybody didn't like. And he truly believed, when he walked in that office that night, he truly believed that nobody liked him. But by just asking him questions, he says, well, he said, I really did believe that. So he wasn't being honest with himself. And then a few weeks later, he called me back up. He said, listen, he said, I went to the boss, the president of the company, and I apologized to him about the things I said. And he just, and the president just said, apology accepted, and let it just be. And now he's friends with the president again. But it was a case of him not being honest with himself. So we always aren't honest with ourselves a lot when we start to think negative about ourselves. I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I'm too heavy, I'm too thin, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm this, I'm bald, whatever. Those are just things that we put ourselves into so that we don't have to move forward. And that's how this ACU, that's what they have done to our minds.